You ever sit there with your phone in your hands, scrolling, and feel absolutely nothing? No drive, no purpose, no fire, just distracted? Here's the truth nobody wants to say. Modern life isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. And most men, they're losing because of it. Because if you don't fix this, you'll wake up at 30, 40, still stuck, still average, and still wondering, what happened with my time? But here's what's crazy. I've lived two completely different lives at the same time. One where everything looked successful on paper, and one where I realized I could still become weak, distracted, and mediocre if I wasn't careful. And later in this video, I'm going to break down the exact system I used to stay disciplined, even when I didn't feel like it. Now, I spent years in environments where most people will never experience: law enforcement, military leadership, and high pressure, real consequence environments. There's absolutely no reset button. And here's what I noticed. The guys who thrive in these environments, they weren't the most talented, they weren't the smartest, they weren't the most physically fit. They were the most disciplined. They built good foundational habits. But then I'd go home and I'd see the opposite world. Endless entertainment, comfort everywhere, no urgency, and no standards. And then it hit me. We're raising men in an environment that removes everything that makes men strong. And point number one is this dopamine overload. The problem is most people don't realize your brain is being hijacked daily. Short form content, gaming, junk food, constant simulation, you're getting rewarded without doing anything hard. And this is where it gets dangerous because your brain starts rejecting effort. For example, the average person checks their phone roughly 150 times per day. The average attention span down to about 8 seconds. That's less than a goldfish. So when it's time to build something real, start a business, invest, or train, you begin to feel resistant. But here's the solution. You don't need more motivation. You need dopamine control. Cut your screen time in half. No phone for the first hour of the day. Do you ever wake up out of bed and what's the first thing you check? It's your phone, right? Replace your cheap dopamine with earned dopamine, whether this is the gym, your work, your learning, or your building. Because right now, and you don't even know it, because right now you're addicted and you don't even know it. Now, point number two, comfort is killing you. Now, the problem here is we live in the most comfortable time in history. We can get food at absolutely any point in time, whether it's just through DoorDash, and there's entertainment at any time. There's no real struggle. And it sounds good, right? But you're wrong because comfort removes the need to grow. Now, the example here is back then, if you didn't work, you didn't eat, you didn't have food on the table. But now you can survive by being average. But that's the trap. You have to manufacture hardship. Train hard even when you're tired. Wake up earlier than necessary. Do things you don't feel like doing. Because if you don't choose hard, life will choose it for you later. Now, point number three is this no clear direction. Now, the problem I'm seeing in society today and our generation is that most individuals aren't lazy. They're just lost. They have no mission, they have no structure, and they have no standards. Now, people just wake up and they check their phone, they go to work, and they come home and they repeat. There's no progress, there's no plan. But that's not life. That's just maintaining your whole entire life. But you need targets and you need clear ones, whether this is income goals, fitness goals, skill goals, and you need to write them down and track them weekly. Because if it's not measured, it doesn't improve. And no, being happy is not a goal. That's a byproduct. Now, point number four is financial literacy. Now, the problem here is honestly, nobody's going to take the time and sit you down and teach you how money actually works. So most people are going to stay stuck. They're going to trade their time for money, and that's going to happen forever because over 60% of Americans, they live paycheck to paycheck. Even people making good money. And why? Because there's no investing, there's no assets, and there's no strategy to put your money to work for you. Now, you need to shift from being a consumer to a builder. And what does this look like? And it's super simple. All you need to do is invest consistently. For me, that's ETFs, and that's a solid foundation. And you need to cut useless expenses and try to build other income streams because money isn't everything. It's a financial tool, but financial pressure, that destroys your freedom. Now, point number five is having a weak identity. Most people don't understand and they don't have standards for themselves. They negotiate with their own discipline. This is, I'll start tomorrow, I'll go later, I'll skip today. But that's not a schedule. That's a pattern. And you need to become the type of man who does what he says, keeps promises to himself, and moves regardless of the mood, whether you're tired, angry, or sad, because discipline isn't something you do, it's who you are. Now here's honest shift. Your life doesn't feel meaningless because something is missing from it. It feels meaningless because you're not being challenged enough to grow. Now, this meaning, all it comes from is progress, responsibility, pressure. It's not comfort and it's not ease. Now, when you have something real to build, whether this is a future, a family, a mission, you really don't need motivation. You move. Now, if you're serious about starting today, here's what I recommend you doing. You cut your distractions immediately. You delete 1 to 2 time-wasting apps today. I know every single one of us can think about this, whether this is TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever app it may be. Number 2 is just set 3 non-negotiable daily skills or habits, whether this is going to the gym, your work, you're building on a skill, or you're learning a new topic. Now, number 3 is track your money. Know where every dollar goes, whether it's a liability or it's a form of income. And number 4, invest consistently. For me, I do bi-weekly investments. It gets straight taken out of my paycheck and I don't even know the money's there. And even if it's small, invest consistently. And number 5 is create structure. Whether this is a new wake up time, you wake up an hour before, or maybe it's 2 hours and you go to the gym, or have certain work blocks throughout the day, whether this is an hour, 15 minutes, and include training time. Now look, you don't need a different life. You need a different standard, because the truth is most people will stay distracted, comfortable, and average. And that's just the normal, but you're here for a reason. There's a reason why you clicked on this video. So decide, are you going to keep consuming content, or are you going to start building something real? Because one path leads to regret and the other leads to freedom. Now, anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one.